第二節我哋繼續開始第二次嘅會議。
Right, let's resume. We are still on FCR item 7. Mr. Christopher Chong. Thank you, Chairman. Now concerning the MUSA satellites, after they have been procured, will the LEOSA satellites still be in operation? If so, for how long? And then if the LEOSA satellites are phased out ultimately or eventually, then how much money will be needed to decommission them? And in fact, how many satellites do we need in order to satisfy our demand? I'll ask Director of or the Marine Department to give a reply. Yes, thank you, Chairman, and I thank the member for the question. For the LEOSA satellites, Cosmos has never said when the LEOSA satellites need to be totally replaced. Initially, there were 6, but then one has ceased operation, and for the remaining 5, 4 of them have already exceeded their usable life. In fact, some of them have been in use for over a decade, and in 2011, it was said that the MUSA satellite system should be rigorously developed. So there will be the IOC in 2016 and then full operational capability in 2018. And we believe that by 2018, the LEOSA satellites will have been phased out. So in other words, is it that in the interim, both types of satellites will operate in parallel, correct? And when the LEOSA satellites have become obsolete, do we need to decommission them, and what will be the cost? Yes, thank you, Chairman. These ground receiving stations are not very big, and so we don't need too much money to decommission them. And concerning the satellites in the sky, they will disintegrate, and then there will be burning, and then the pieces will fall down. But then that doesn't mean that we will need to spend extra money to satisfy the surface demand, as the LEOSA satellites have all been phased out. Chairman, when the LEOSA satellites become obsolete, and then there won't be any extra cost. They simply will no longer be used. Mr. James Toh. The government flying service, the police, and the PLA. I want to know whether the information gathered by these satellites will be shared with these bodies or departments. Yes, thank you, Chairman. I thank the member for the question. For the MUSA satellite system, the signals are for the MRCC. The MRCC coordinates the receiving of the distress alerts. Say, for example, if a vessel is in distress in Hong Kong waters, then the MRCC will inform the police and the fire services to carry out a rescue operation. And if the distress alert comes from outside Hong Kong waters, then the MRCC will also inform the government flying service. And the PLA? Chairman, thank you. Perhaps I can supplement here. We do exchange information and share information with neighboring coordination centers. We do not share our signals or information with other departments. For example, FSD, Marine Police, GFS, yes, we'll share the information with them, and then we share the information with the Guangdong Rescue Coordination Center, and we will not directly share the information with other organizations.
Now, if it's in the waters, there's going to be a rescue operation. It wouldn't be the PLA, it would be the Guangdong authorities. So the PLA Navy vessels will not sail out from Stonecutter Island. When the MRCC receives the rescue requests within Hong Kong waters, then we will of course notify the police. I am talking about search and rescue operations outside Hong Kong waters. Now, for search and rescue, people just try to save lives. So all the search and rescue centers will take the initiative. So if outside Hong Kong waters, will the Hong Kong Armed Forces, or would it be the Search and Rescue Center here, or it will be the Guangdong Search and Rescue Center? Now, the scope of operation of Hong Kong Search and Rescue Center is actually outside. It goes beyond Hong Kong waters. And you see that's the area for Taiwan and so on. Now, so our signals will be transmitted to the Guangdong authorities rather than to the PLA Navy vessels. So the Guangdong Search and Rescue vessels will send Rescue Center will send its vessels rather than the PLA here. Now, I cannot speak on behalf of the PLA in Hong Kong search and rescue operations. For Hong Kong waters, it's the Marine Department, Fire Services Department, and the Auxiliary Flying Service. Now, we share our signals with the Guangdong Search and Rescue Centers, but on what resources they deploy, it's not for Hong Kong to determine. The speaker is not using the mic. The speaker is not speaking on the mic. I said that we share our signals with the neighboring search and rescue centers. Mr. James Toh is not speaking on the mic. If you have the information later, if you do not have the information, you can just tell us that you do not. Next, Ma Fong Kwok. 2 questions. First, this system, has the government estimated how long it will last before it's replaced? Please speak closer to the mic. When will this system be replaced? And when it's replaced, in what form? Also, how do we coordinate with the neighboring jurisdictions? Now, if it's in the sea, then it would be the marine authorities. But how about an incident in the air? Now, are there receiving stations near us? How far are they from us? So if will we supply the information to neighboring centers? Now, first question, how long will the system be usable? Now, these are electronic devices. They can be used for 10 odd years. Now, for the satellite system, the international organization has not informed us how about the period of use, but the last system has been used for over 20 years. On the second question, now on the search and rescue operation procedures, when a vessel is in danger, then on board the vessel there is an emergency radio emitting device that emits signals received by the satellites, and the satellites will then broadcast the information to the stations below, and the information is also broadcast to the country where the plane or vessel is registered. Now, if the receiving station in Hong Kong receives signals in respect of vessels that are not registered in Hong Kong, automatically the information will be emitted to the other countries concerned. And how about airplanes? Now, for flight information areas overlap. Now, if plane falls into another country's flight information area, of course that country will be responsible, but the Marine Department will also try to help. Which is the nearest receiving station? Taiwan and Japan, they also have this receiving station. And how about China? The LEOSAR system is also available, used in China. Fan Kwok Wai. On menu operation, now para 1516 says that the new LEOSAR receiving station does not require additional manpower to operate. It will become operative in mid-2016, and the old system will serve till 2018, and this 1 to 2 year period will be operated by your same team of staff. Is that correct? Or do you need additional staff so that there are enough operators? Now, the two systems, when they operate side by side, at the receiving station, a lot of signals are distributed automatically, where the manpower, where menu operation is required. It's at the MRCC. There are 5 teams of staff who are on different shifts, so no additional manpower is required to operate the second system. Ms. Sin Ho, I was asking whether there would be revenue. I went on the COSPA-SASA's website. They say that they do receive some revenue when you use this service. You need to buy something called bacon, but I believe Hong Kong isn't in this business. And also looking at the website, they charge a fee. Every year, administration fee has to be paid. Now, the website says the participating countries will have to pay according to the level decided by the Council. Now, Hong Kong is a member, but it's a participant. It builds a receiving station for that purpose. Now, as a independent regional participant, do we have to pay every year a fee to this international satellite company? Now, Hong Kong, in joining this international search and rescue organization, it has to pay a fee every year of several tens of thousands of dollars. You have to state that in your document. Now, even though it's not a lot of money, so when you purchase the system, you have to pay several tens of thousands of dollars of fee every year. We are already paying the fee now. We have to pay the same fee for the current system. It's not incremental. Yes, we are paying already. James Toh. Just now, I asked a question. Can it be answered? Now we have a receiving station to receive the information from LeoSat. Now, when we emit the signals, where are they emitted? Now, how are the signals generated? Say, are there 10 platforms that we emit to? Now, when the satellite receives the signals, according to the International Search and Rescue Satellite Organization, now the request for help will be emitted to the receiving station directly below. Another signal will be sent to the country where the vessel is or plane is registered. I'm asking about paragraph 8. The Miosa ground receiving station. When we receive the station, if we are going to emit the information, do we remit to the specified stations, say 3 or 4 or 5 of them, or we emit to Guangdong or to the PLA in Hong Kong? The signals would... Now, if it's in Northwestern Pacific, we will emit to Japan. That's the node for Northwestern Pacific. If it's to the south, now if the satellite now the satellite has a large footprint, so well, the Miosa receiving station. Now, if we receive the signals and we find that it's not in Hong Kong waters, if it's east to our east or south, or well, whom will we emit to? We will emit to Japan. It's the international node for Northwestern Pacific. But your colleague said that it would be emitted to the Guangdong Search and Rescue Center. Now, in sharing the information, we share only with other search and rescue centers according to need. How many centers would you share the information with, the neighboring centers? Now, our MRCC, well, how many will you emit to? Do you have a table? Is Guangdong one of them? What is the full name for the Guangdong? As I said very clearly, we will not, for instance, you mentioned the PLA forces in Hong Kong, we will not share the information with them. When you emit the information, will you emit to a few fixed destinations? Let me supplement. I think it's not sharing. That's a wrong word. When we receive the information, if it's not for Hong Kong waters, we will only emit to Japan because it represents the system in northwestern Pacific.
Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. Sorry, the speaker is not coming through. Mr. Kwok, perhaps you can clarify what you have told members. Yes, thank you. You used the word sharing. I believe you want to know the use of the information for rescue operations, and outside Hong Kong waters, the nearest area is the mainland waters. So in fact, we should in fact use the word transmit. In fact, signals received, information received, were transmitted. Then can I ask the Assistant Director this question? So the signals will be transmitted to Japan, and then Japan looks at where or which rescue center needs the information. Is that the case? So you mean the information will go to Japan first, and Japan will see which rescue center needs the information, and then the information will be shared with that center. Is that right? Chairman, I think we may be talking about different things. Now, when a vessel is in distress, then distress alerts will be issued. The satellites receive these alerts, and if we receive the alert, and if that's not for us to take action, then the alert will automatically be transmitted to the center in Japan. Japan will look at the country of registration of the vessel, and then the alert will be sent to that country. But what if there is a vessel in distress right outside Hong Kong waters? Then does it mean that we need to transmit the signals to Japan? That would mean Hong Kong waters. So that comes to the point made by Mr. Kwok as to whom we're going to share the information with. I would like to know how many units, how many centers will get the information that we have. Can you tell us the names of the centers? Or is it that you're just telling me that there are these centers but you do not know them? The Guangdong Rescue Center. And then what else? Shenzhen Marine Authority, Zhuhai Marine Authority. And then also the Macau Rescue Center. Mr. To, yes, it's very simple. And if the PLA needs to take action, then it will be alerted by the Guangdong Center, not by our center. Is that right? I don't think I can answer this question on behalf of the PLA. So can you give me the reply in writing? I want to have information concerning the rescue operations carried out by the PLA. Because we have to be clear as to what we want. There shouldn't be any misunderstanding. All right. If members don't have further questions, I will now put this item to the vote. Those in favor of 2014-2015 7, please raise their hands. Those against? Yes, please. Yes, please. Mr. Gary Fan claims a division. The bell will ring for 5 minutes.
請各位委員關注
Members, we will be voting on FCR 7. Members, please return to your seats. Voting begins.
喺我宣布
Members, please check the votes you've cast. Voting is closed. The results are displayed. 45 present, 44 yes, no no's, no abstentions. So the item is approved. So let's move on. FCR 8. Members are invited to approve the 5 items considered by the ESC on the 30th of April. And we've got items EC1 to EC5. No member has requested that any one item be singled out for voting. So for those in favor of the proposals in FCR 8, please raise their hands. Mr. Fernando Zhang? ESC, right? ESC, Chairman? Are you on the on item 3 on the agenda? Yes, item 3 on the agenda, FCR 8, 5 establishment proposals. I want to ask a question on the Commissioner of Rehabilitation, but we haven't arranged for officials to come to give replies. This is because no member has requested that a particular item be singled out for voting. Mrs. Regina Ip, I wish to supplement, Chairman. The Establishment Subcommittee agreed that no item would have to be singled out for voting, and so we don't have any officials here today to answer members' questions. But there will be officials coming to answer questions on other Establishment Subcommittee items, right? Is that right? But we don't have any officials for this item. All right, no officials. These items have been discussed by the ESC. So I will now put FCR 8 to the vote. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Thank you. Those against? No abstentions. All right, so I think the majority of the members voting are in favor of the proposal, and so the proposal is approved. Next, we have FCR item 9. This item seeks members' approval of the approval of the items PWSC 1 to 5, and members have requested that items 1, 3, and 4 be voted on separately. So if members have no further questions, then we will vote on items 1, 3, and 4 separately. So first of all, we will vote on FCR 9. All right, those in favor, please raise their hands. FCR 9. Thank you. So those against, no, and no abstention. I think the majority of members voting are in favor of the proposal, and so the proposal is approved. All right, so let's now deal with the items to be voted on separately.
2014
BWSC 2014-15 1. The document proposes to upgrade 172DR to Category A at an estimated cost of 1.5328 billion dollars in money of the day prices for the design and construction of the organic waste treatment facilities, Phase 1. We have with us Ms. Christine Low and her colleague Lee Jian. Of course, we hope to do a good job in recovery. Now, this is only a starting item. When will you have a comprehensive recovery system? This is limited because it covers only organic kitchen waste. Now, how many similar organic waste centers will you be able to have, and what percentage of the kitchen waste will you be able to deal with? Now, this first one will be able to deal with 200 tons. We need to find land to build more. We have 2 locations. So all 3 together, we would be able to handle about 800 tons. And we are trying to find 2 or 3 more locations for these plants. So for the moment, there are 3 plants, and you need to look for 2 or 3 more, but you don't have them yet. Now, what we like to hear is how many altogether will you have eventually? You now have 3. You would be able to recover 800 tons. I hope we have the resolve for full recovery, and then we try to convince the public about future facilities like incinerator. Otherwise, the people will say the government is not sincere. Now, you are saying that apart from these 3, there may be 2 or 3 more. So can the Undersecretary tell us when can you fully implement your plans, and how many will there be in total? We hope that eventually there will be 5 or 6 organic waste treatment centers, so that we can handle over 1,500 odd tons per day. We are proactively trying to find more locations. Whether we can identify the sites in the next couple of months, now I can't tell you now, but I can say that we are trying very hard. Next, Tommy Chung. I'd first like to declare interest. Now, actually, I was going to organize a company to deal with the kitchen waste of restaurants, and I talked to government departments, but government has been pouring cold water, and I've been rather discouraged. and I might just use the money for other purposes. And just now the Undersecretary said this recovery center, this $1.5 billion is only going to handle about 200 tons per day. The Undersecretary says that she hopes to find 2 or 3 more locations for 800 tons in total. Now we generate 3,000 odd tons of kitchen waste a day. So it's very far away from our target. And as an investor, I think $1.5 billion for 200 tons. Now, that's 5 times required for private investment. We think $300 million is enough for 200 tons. Now, the government says $1.5 billion. Now, I haven't looked at the details. When private enterprises invest to handle their own kitchen waste, and you compare the figure to the $1.5 billion for 200 tons, I think it's rather out of line. This $1.5 billion, is it a capital cost? In the future, you still have to come to the Finance Committee for recurrent spending to handle the kitchen waste, right? Now, back then when you try to get funding for waste discharge facilities, you asked us for money after we got committed. So we might have to pay out big money every year for the recurrent expenditure. Do you have the figures? Now, it seems that the $1.5 billion, does that include the daily operating costs for the next 20 years? Or will you need to come back for more money? Mr. Au can brief you on our financial arrangement. On the $1.5 billion is the basic construction cost. Para 18 says that there will be recurrent cost expenditure of $72 million. Now, this is a design and build project, so this is covered. 200 tons, $72 million per year. How much per ton? About $900 per ton. But this compares with other ways to handle organic kitchen waste. This is more effective. For instance, the smaller machines is $20,000 to $30,000 per ton. You can ask in the second round. Claudia Mo. My understanding is that in this recovery exercise, you are targeting the large restaurants, but not the domestic kitchen waste. Now, $1.5 billion, only 200 tons. You say it includes construction costs, which must be very expensive. Now, you know it's very smelly. Now, I went to some kitchen waste facilities. The most difficult aspect is the odor. Now, can you prevent the odor? Now, I won't comment on the commercial side. Mr. Tommy Cheung says that he will not invest. Now, in the Operation Building Bright, the government subsidized some old buildings. Now, for private kitchen waste disposal machines, they are several $1,000s each only. So if certain owners corporations are interested, will the government sponsor them so that the kitchen waste recovery concept can be spread in the community? And you will ask for more funds for recurrent expenditure. What kind of figure are we talking about? I will answer part of that, and Mr. Au will reply on the rest. Now, the second question is about the housing developments. Will we subsidize them to install small kitchen waste disposal machines? Now, at ECF, we have a project on this. Now, why do we need to build large kitchen waste plants? Now, for the smaller machines, it's not very economical. If you take the per ton figure, it's very expensive. Now, actually, a number of housing developments have this equipment, and it all depends on the management. Now, how they deal with the odor. Now, it's very difficult. Now, many in the community face these difficulties. The odor or something dirty leaks out, and it's not a good experience. Now, Hong Kong generates over 3,000 tons of kitchen waste each day, and if you look at other places, for instance in Taiwan, where it's more successful, in total they recover about half of the total. So we have 3,000 odd tons of waste. Now our plan is to recover about half by building these plants. So at the housing developments, it's very educational to have these smaller machines, but it cannot be used for Hong Kong as a whole. How about the odor? We conducted a detailed environmental impact assessment taking into account the odor, and we take into account the higher standards in Hong Kong regarding odor, and the figures show that we are able to achieve the highest odor standards in Hong Kong, and everything is entirely enclosed. Cheng Heng Ben, there are already a number of private recovery companies that have been encouraged by the government and are joining in the recovering kitchen waste. The restaurants are paying these companies to recover the kitchen waste, and operationally the government pays these recovery centers to freely recover the kitchen waste from restaurants. Now, right now the government pays, but in the future the government will do it freely. So the private operators will go out of business. So how do you prevent the government competing with the private operators so that they can survive? Mr. Au will explain how we try to allow for this. Now, the current approach is that the private shopping malls will use the transportation companies to send the kitchen waste to a certain location. Now we are building this location of 200 tons, and the industrial commercial center will be 800 tons. So there is still plenty of space for private operators. and private operators will be able to ship the waste to our plants. And we will discuss the matter in connection with the levying of the fee charges. So there is a lot of room for the private operators where there is a lot of industrial, commercially generated waste. Now you are only building 3 plants, and then you will have private centers, totally 6. So you offer free service for recovery from some hotels, etc. But others have to pay by themselves. So you offer a service to some but not to others. This is very unfair. How do you prevent that? Now, for the industrial commercial sector, we don't intend to recover for them freely. They just send to our plants whether we will charge a recycling fee. We will discuss that in the future. Now, in the new territories, the restaurants have to pay, but in Kowloon and Hong Kong Island, the waste will be collected freely. We will consider these market issues when we try to set the fees in the future. After we endorse your proposal today, will you undertake to discuss with the current operators so that they can survive, and the government can also benefit from large scale recovery of kitchen waste? We will certainly do that.
Now, in Hong Kong, we really need to work and have discussions with all stakeholders in Hong Kong. Mr. Fernando Zhang. Yes, thank you. So this facility will mainly serve Tsuen Wan and the Islands District, and it's going to treat 200 tons of organic waste every day. And it seems that it's not going to treat food waste from domestic premises. So I want to know where the food waste will come from. I understand that this facility will be in Siu Ho Wan. And then for food waste in Tsuen Wan, can I know the transport route of the food waste to the facility? And is it that there will be source separation or separation at source? And I want to know whether the restaurants or the food manufacturers have, at the moment, do practice source separation. Now, this facility has a larger catchment area: Tsing Yi, Tsuen Wan, Sham Shui Po, West Kowloon, the northern part of Lantau. All these are the catchment areas. Now, why is it that we want to treat waste from non-domestic sources first? Just because at the moment, in fact, they are practicing some sort of separation. In fact, in 2010, we started a partnership program with the business sector. We asked them to take part in the trial, and since then over 120 organizations have taken part in the trial. So many restaurants and food producing enterprises have already gained experience in food waste separation. And then what about the transport routes? Mainly the land transport route via from North Lantau via Chiang Mai Bridge to the facility. Concerning the 120 restaurants or food-producing enterprises, are they all in the catchment area? Now, some are not in this catchment area, Chairman. This is because we hope that more restaurants can gain experience. In fact, we're going to have the second and the third facility, and we hope that the restaurants can start gaining the experience as early as possible. So I want to know how many restaurants have been covered in the trial, airport authority and also some restaurants in Chengyi. So if that's the case, then I am worried that when the food waste is being transported, then there may be pollution, there may also be an odor problem. Now say if the food waste has to be transported from West Kowloon to Siu Ho Wan, that's a rather long route. So do you have any mitigation measures? Now, in the past few years, we had a trial on separation at source. We also had a trial on the transport of the food waste. And some of the routes or transport routes are rather long, and we were of the view that the odor problem was not serious. It could be resolved. Mr. Chen Chi-Chun, this morning I had a discussion with Mr. Tommy Cheung on the organic waste treatment facilities. Mr. Tommy Cheung didn't ask this question, so I am asking this question. We need to have we need $1.5 billion to treat 200 tons of waste. How come Tommy Cheung has told us that he merely needs $300 million? So why is it that we're not asking Tommy Cheung to do the job? Why is it that we still want the government to do the job? I think we need to look at the objective. Some organic waste treatment facilities provide fish feed, some provide energy, and we want to change waste into energy, and also we want to produce high quality compost. So we need to comply with very stringent environmental and engineering standards. So basically, I want to say that this facility is cost effective and is comparable with similar facilities in other places. So Mr. Tommy Cheung, the government's cost is 5 times the cost that you have estimated. So I really don't know what the differences are. And then it is said that the restaurants will have to take the food waste to you. So do you offer them incentives, and will the facility operate under capacity because you are unable to receive adequate food waste? Now, in fact, restaurants do have to dispose of the food waste. They're not like domestic premises. They have to pay for the cost. And as for incentives, I think there are 2. Over the past 2 or 3 years, we provided restaurant operators with a lot of technical assistance and guidance. And in fact, the arrangements are extremely convenient. Second, we have designed a network which is accessible to them. Now, we'll need 5 to 6 such facilities in the future, and we've identified 2 or 3 sites, and they are in different parts of the territory. So in other words, the government doesn't need to shoulder any cost in respect of collection and transport. That's correct. And you're not worried that you won't be able to receive enough food waste. We're not worried because from the business sector, there are at least 800 tons of food waste produced per day. So are you worried that there will be too much food waste coming to your facility? Now, for the restaurants which are too far away, then the food waste may not come to the facility. We think we should be able to cope with the food waste that we receive. Thank you. Mr. Albert Chan, Chairman, I have criticized the administration many times for this scheme. In fact, this is a very stupid scheme. You're wasting taxpayers' money. You're going to let over $1 billion of taxpayers' money go down the drains. In fact, I think it's a business decision. It's a commercial decision as to whether you want compost or whether you want energy. But it seems that you are acting like you are God, who is omnipotent. You pretend to know everything. And I think what's most important is that the food waste will not go to our landfills. Whether compost needs to be produced, whether energy needs to be produced, this should be a market-driven decision. So I really don't know what the EPD is trying to do.
You should mandate sorting at source so that the people will not be dumping money into our landfills or burning up useful waste. Well, the concept is correct, but the planning, the decision-making process, as I've said, are really senseless. It seems that you are spending spamming money without consideration of cost effectiveness. Actually, when the item was discussed at the PWSC, I already raised objection. I find the current approach unacceptable. Park Island has been around for years. They want taxi to be allowed. The Transport Department will say the Chiang Mai Bridge is saturated. Park Island residents want to admit more vehicles, and now they are not even allowed after midnight. It's a transport question. And now you're saying that the vehicles taking the foodways can use the Chiang Mai Bridge to Siu Ho Wan. This is ridiculous. I want to invoke Rule 39, a move a motion of adjournment. All right, let's speak on the motion on adjournment. Mr. Albert Chan. I don't want to adjourn the meeting. I don't want to hold up too much of the time. But for this item, I hope it can be adjourned. I hope Mr. Tommy Cheung and other parties will support me. In principle, this is a good idea that should be pursued. But I've talked to the people in the green industry. They are saying that if you give me a piece of land and the flexibility, I can accept more food waste than you sell out in the paper. And the taxpayer don't have to pay a dime as long as you give them the power and you come up with a complementary policy. And then food waste from private and public sector, they would do it for free. They would collect the food waste and process it without spending a dime of taxpayers' money. I don't know whether you know about this. I've talked to some of these operators, and they are saying that they haven't seen any government as ignorant as Hong Kong SCL government. So please wake up. I would like to have this adjourned, and then please return in September and October. We'll have another discussion. Many members are not clear about the issues at hand. And you may have heard from the government some ideas. I know that for the rich parties, they have members who are operating recovery and recycling businesses, and you have ECF spending the hundreds of thousands of dollars to promote this. So I hope all the related parties should declare their interest. So the adjournment is politically correct. Let's give everyone more time. If this is passed by the FC, the government would just go ahead and pay no more attention to us. All right? I've spent all my 3 minutes. Who else would like to speak? According to paragraph 39, Mr. Albert Chan has moved a motion to adjourn the meeting. Mr. Tommy Cheung. Chairman. Well, I'm not a member of the PWSC. but my party colleagues are on the PwC, and they were supportive. I understand members' concern about food waste, but now we have too high a price tag for this project. 200 tons. How much is the cost per ton? I think it's about $1,000 a ton, if my calculation is correct. You can do this division yourself to handle food waste of this scale, 200 tons a day, 365 days a year. How much is involved? 700,000. And $72 million, so it's $1,000 per ton. We put it like this. In English, we want to have a caping fee, and you want to impose a gate fee. So you charge, last year the price was $600 per ton. This time it's $1,000 a ton. And then you are going to invest $1.5 billion. As I look at all these figures, well, you are going to produce electricity. Some members may not understand this. Why is it that they want to produce power and my idea is not for power generation? Because the cost is going to be higher. My strategic partner is the town gas. The food waste, they would want to make use of the gas produced in the process for town gas production. The Undersecretary is aware of this. I've explained to the Chief Secretary for Administration. The EPD just said, I don't believe you. You can't do it. Well, I can show you that I can do a better job. Instead of spending $1.5 billion, all it takes is a note from you.
Having went through all the figures, I have a concern. In the future, the government might not be so kind. I think the government will try to delay the projects, and they might overspend. Next, Mr. Ray Chan. I support Mr. Albert Chan's proposal. Our time is precious, and I hope you can all consider the termination of discussion. Even after the discussion is terminated, we still have other ways. This is a question of principle. Earlier today, Tommy Chung said the project can be done with 300 million, and now we need 1.5 billion. So after an adjournment, we can give Mr. Tommy Chung more time to persuade everyone that it can be done with 300 million, and there's no reason why we have to spend 15 billions. So I'm not confident today to vote on the issue yet. So I think terminating the discussion is the best method. As I said, it doesn't matter what kind of pants or shorts we wear, so to speak. This is a very serious allegation, and Ms. Christine Low, please take note of this issue. Mr. Tommy Chung mentioned that Town Gas is one of his partners, and this is, well, an overt challenge to the administration. And at that time, I've said you shouldn't sell your assets at such a cheap price to the link. And do we still have ethics at this council? Well, we need some respect, and respect doesn't just mean wearing long pants, just like Miss Elizabeth Quartz. Integrity is very important. If you just press a button and vote without thinking, it's a very bad situation. This is a very serious allegation. It's more serious than throwing objects around at the council. Mr. Albert Chen said, a company from France is willing to take up this project free of charge as long as you give them the land. If you are asked questions today, but yet you chose not to answer, and all you did was to press a button. In the future, if there are problems, what are you going to be held accountable? The function of the Legislative Council is to discuss matters. If the integrity, for the two legislators I mentioned, their integrity is very important and well respected. And when the time comes for voting, we will have people here who are just here to press a button. Mr. Ng Leung Sing, if the Bank of China decides to construct a new building, if someone says 5 billion is too much, it can be done much more cheaply, would you stop the discussions and say, well, let's hear what those people have to say? Would you do so? I'm sure you would. Mr. Gary Fan, we still have 5 more sessions or less than 11 hours of meeting time before we have to wrap up all the agenda items in the Finance Committee. So we have more than 50 items to go. We have more than 40 items to go. If the government and legislators are sincere in tackling issues which are important to to our people, then I think it's ridiculous that the government would not reorder the agenda items, whether it's the rent in PRH, the civil service pay, old age living allowance. If these items have discussions for these items are to be delayed because of filibustering, I think it's of public interest that we give these items higher priority. I hope the legislators can consider this point. We have to deliver our promises. If we agree that these items are important for the livelihoods of our people, we have to give it time. We have to dedicate time to discuss and pass these motions. I think that it's better to resume our discussions later when we have more information. Last time during PWSC meeting, I had a similar query as Mr. Tommy Cheung. I was concerned with the overall construction costs, whether we have adopted the best method. In terms of recycling, the biggest challenge for most recyclers is the logistic arrangements. As Mr. Cheung said, how can we have introduce interim delivery points in order to decrease the overall costs? These resources to be recycled are precious, and they are all useful in their own means. And if we can recycle these materials through a centralized network, we can build an efficient recycling network in our society in order to satisfy the demands and needs of our other recycling facilities. But since discussions started last year, in discussions of the 3 landfills and incinerator, we have constantly asked questions of what to do with the recycling network, but yet there was no substantial answer. And how can departments like the buildings department and be dealing with the facilities? And there was no word how the interim RCPs can be mobilized. Last year, the CS said an interdepartmental workforce would be in place to discuss these issues, but now August is coming and still we don't have any answer. So this is something which is enraging to me. We have spent a lot of resources on recycling food waste. Well, would this measure become a tool for is the government being taken advantage of? And we have a recurrent expense of more than 70 million a year. Next, Ms. Elizabeth Quat. Thank you, Chairman. All along, we agree that the recycling of food waste is a big problem in Hong Kong, which is untackled by the government over the years. Members raised the possibility of lower operating costs and better operating modes. I think the government has to elaborate on this issue. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to make a decision today. So I'll leave the floor to the government to make a response. Hang on a second. Any other questions from members? If not, please let's invite the administration to speak. As Mr. Chen Chang said, for the $300 million suggestion, we have done some analysis. The recycling capacity is way lower than 100 tons. We cannot handle 200 tons. And a lot of residual materials must be sent to landfills, and there is a large amount of residual waste which must be sent to landfills, and the effectiveness is way lower. And the cost of treatment is not included, and the scale is very different from the government's facilities, so it cannot be compared to government facilities. Mr. Albert Chan to respond, please. You have 1 minute. Chairman, I have looked at these issues since the 1980s. In the age of UCs, we have paid overseas visits, and in the 80s, we have visited Japan to see how they use waste to generate electricity for swimming pools. And in the latter days of Mr. Donald Chang, he was really surprised. But the fact is, we have visited other countries since the 1980s. We have looked at how they perform waste separation at source and how they can make money out of waste. We have looked at such issue for 20 to 30 years now, so that's why I'm very angry nowadays. I think the situation at Hong Kong is a disgrace. If you visit mainland cities, they are much more systematic and cost-effective than Hong Kong. So I hope you understand this situation and supports the motion to terminate the discussions. So let's put this item into voting. Do we support the termination of discussions for paper number PWSC bracket 214-215-1? Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. You can put down your hands. Those who are against, please raise your hands. Those who are in favor? Well, according to the secretary, let's play safe and raise your hands one more time. Let's read out the names. Okay? Speakers off mic. Well, we have to take down the names. You may now lower your hands. 7. Those who are against. All right. The majority are in favor. So this motion is passed, and the proceedings are adjourned. So let's move on to the next item.
The second and third item are now put to the vote. 2 PWSC recommended items. They are both related to the relocation of a sewage treatment works to Caverns, a feasibility study. I propose we discuss the two documents together, and then we'll vote on them separately. The first one is PWSC 2014-15, number 3. And that is to upgrade Project 41DS to Category 1 and an estimated cost of $39.2 million in money of the day prices for carrying out a feasibility study on relocation of Samcheng sewage treatment works to Caverns. Second paper, PWSC 2014-15, number 4. And that is a proposal to upgrade 402DS to Category A at an estimated cost of $40.6 million in money of the day prices for carrying out a feasibility study on relocation of Cyclone sewage treatment works to Caverns. For this item, we have in attendance Mr. Liu Chun-sun, PAS W2, and Director of Drainage Services, Daniel Chung, and Mr. Kwok Ping Kong, Chief Engineer from DSD. Mr. Gary Fang, Chairman, with regard to the two proposals to relocate sewage treatment works to Caverns, I have many questions. First of all, let's look at the location. What buildings can be found? We have a different residential, Lido, Gold Coast, and so on and so forth. These are luxurious residential buildings, and the transport is convenient. So for Samcheng sewage treatment works, is located on a site which, if redeveloped, will be used for the residential buildings. In 41DS, it said that the Samcheng sewage treatment works, there will be a planning review and also an overall technical assessment to see if the relocation is cost effective. So the government understands or is telling us that there will be an assessment of cost effectiveness. I think the cost effectiveness study should be dealt with in the first place. Has the government assessed that the site is to be used for private residential development, discounting the relocation costs, the cost of studies, and what kind of land premium can it really fetch? Mr. Liu. Thank you. In the CEDD's study on reclamation and caverns, this site was selected for a comprehensive study. We mainly look at the technical issues, whether it's feasible to relocate the works to a cavern. Initially, the thinking is that it's feasible. After the PWSC meeting, we provided some information to members. As for the land value estimates, well, it depends on the use that is going to be used and also the timing. in this feasibility study, we would take a better look to see what uses can be put there and what kind of facilities should be needed, and then we can come up with a more accurate estimate. Well, I understand that, but this is rather a basic requirement and should be dealt with before the feasibility study is commissioned. Because if you just go ahead with the feasibility study and it's not cost effective because of the changing or fluctuating land premium at the time and so on and so forth. So maybe my question can be framed like this. Are you going to look at the cost effectiveness in this feasibility study? Mr. Liu, yes, this will be done. So you are going to do that? Yes. Does any other member wish to ask questions? If not, Mr. Gary Fang? Chairman, because we are going to deal with two items together, for those items which are not subject to a separate discussion, the Sha-Tin sewage treatment works, there are three concurrent feasibility study for Samjiang, for Samjiang, and for Diamond Hill. The reservoir service will be looked into for relocation to caverns. Recently, we have seen many cases of budget overrun, and there are so many works being implemented at the same time. There is a lack of sufficient manpower or construction materials. Have these factors been taken into account? And that is, you are going to have three feasibilities on relocation to caverns being conducted at the same time. Would that lead to a higher cost? Director? Well, we are doing the engineering feasibility study this time, and then there will be a more detailed feasibility study, and the work will only start, if ever, a few years down the road. At the time, most of the railway projects, apart from the Sha-Tin Central link, would have been completed. And for the relocation works, mainly it's about tunneling, and also for these two projects, they are relatively small in scale, so there will be no significant impact on the market. Now you want to submit the three items for our consideration at the same time, and they are of a similar nature. They are similar in that they are all feasibility studies, and also that you are going to coordinate the other matters such as construction material, procurement. Can you coordinate your work so that the three relocation works can be conducted in parallel to reduce cost? Well, the progress might not be the same for all the three projects. For the two involving sewage treatment works, they might be similar in terms of progress, but that's the one involving the surface reservoir is different, and there are different circumstances, and the public demand on these projects might be different. So it's difficult to have all three launch concurrently. Please wrap up quickly. For these two feasibility studies, there will be public participation exercises. We'll ask people in the district what they expect to get from the works. So they may have different demands. Dr. Fernando Zhang, so we have been resorting to all sorts of means to get land. Relocating sewage treatment works to caverns is, of course, one of the means. And we have this one in Samjiang, and we have similar concern about the ones in Sha-Tin and Sai Kung. So the concern is what purpose will be put to the land so vacated. For this Samjiang site is near the waterfront. My concern is that it's going to be used for luxurious residential developments. And the same for the Cyclone site. So we expend public money, carry out a lot of projects to relocate such sewage treatment works, and at the end of the process, only the developer stand to benefit. That's my concern. So what use will be put to the land vacated by the sewage treatment works? In our previous public engagement exercises, we asked the participants about the land use for these two sites. The predominant, the majority view is for residential development and also for community facilities. The two sites are not big. So can we put a lot of different uses to it? The chance is not high. Of course, in this feasibility study, we will look at, once again, the possible uses. But is it going to be luxurious residential properties? We know there's a shortage of land for both public and private development projects. Even if it's a private residential development, it may not necessarily be luxurious apartments. It all depends on the planning. At this stage, if we give you the green light, the funding, and then once it's relocated, you can decide what to do. Can the Development Bureau promise us that for this site, you are going to build PRH, public rental housing, and the density, even if it's a private development, is not going to be used for luxurious residential development? Well, the funding is for a feasibility study to see whether the relocation proposal is feasible, and also we assess the cost effectiveness of the project. After this is done, when we really want to relocate the works, we need to come up with the right design, and also we need to carry out the construction. So we need to come back to seek your approval for funding. So it's not that after you give the approval today, it's going to be relocated right away. Can we promise that the land will be used for PRH rather than private residential development? We cannot really come to a decision before the feasibility study is completed. Well, this is at an early stage, so they don't even know whether relocation will take place. We're talking about, for two items, $40 million, and if we take into account the one in Sha Tin, the total cost is over $100 million. If we spend that much money into feasibility studies, and then you come back saying that you want to build luxurious private residential buildings there, it will be too late. So can you indicate your policy intention? That is not the case. Well, I hope your views should be recorded, and then when they come back and they then present a proposal like what you have suggested, you will consider what to do. Mr. Leung Kok-hong, you want to make the best use of caverns. Well, that's the policy of Mr. C.Y. Leung. He has been boasting about this plan. Why do we need such caverns or use these caverns for some purposes? They want to get more land. According to him, it's important to get land so that we can provide residential sites. But why do we need residential sites? We want to give poor people a roof over the top. So we must distinguish what is right and what is wrong. It's not meaningful for civil servants to answer our questions. I know C.Y. Leung well. We want to improve our living environment. It's in your paper. In the former Sha Tin sewage, in the former sewage treatment works site, you are going to use it for recreational purposes. I must put this question to you. Is it for recreational purposes or for residential purposes? My constituents have already asked me to tell you that it should not be for residential uses. You should promise us, build a cycle track or other facilities. You must promise us. So I don't think the government representative should be just you people here. The CY Leung is trying to grab land at all costs. PRH is already densely built, and they still want to build one more building, insert one more building in the site. Look at what we have here. Oh, there's one in Shek Mun under the control of the DAB. People in Shek Mun have raised objection to your plan. Well, you are going to spend so much money to get this site, and you haven't made a decision on the use. Oh, Miss Chair, have you asked people who can tell us what the site is going to be used to come to this meeting? Or it's under the Development Bureau, and the permanent secretary of the Development Bureau is the chairman of the Town Planning Board.
You're telling us that the government is trying to regurgitate its resources. What is the question you want to ask? The government cannot decide how to use its resources. So it's trying to recycle its resources, so to speak. It's like saying that the government would only use the resources in the way they want to. We want PRH. We want recreational land. We don't want something we don't need. We want something we really need. I've heard Mr. Leung's comments, and we'll consider this in our feasibility studies. And the project to relocate facilities to caverns, and was mentioned in the enhanced use of underground space in Hong Kong study completed by the ECDD in 2011. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. Sourcing land for housing is an important issue in our society, and this is something which I'm sure many people want to see. We are conducting feasibility studies on these sites, and if we are to convert these spaces into any kind of public use, we have to apply to TBD for to change the land use. So what will happen to the lands at that time? We have a set of rules by the TBB to act as the gatekeeper. So at this stage, the Democratic Party would support these plans. But over the course of the feasibility studies, you have to address how these vacated land would be used. And you have to reach a consensus in the community by conducting consultations. And after the studies, after you have results, what are you going to do with the actual land planning? Mr. Liu. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Wu. We would conduct public engagement, and if we are to change the land use, it must be approved by the Town Planning Board, and these procedures would be strictly followed. Next, Ms. Elizabeth Quartz. Thank you, Chairman. As you all know, Hong Kong has to balance the interests between housing development and social development, and as such, the DAB is in support of proposals to relocate waste treatment works or other facilities to caverns in order to vacate lands for other uses. Apart from housing development, lands of other uses are equally needed. So we support the feasibility studies, and hopefully through these studies, the government can improve the specific districts. Many districts face problems with transportation because of a shortage of land. So we hope that these vacated land can enhance the overall planning of the districts rather than being solely used for residential developments. Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong, or our long hair, has very high political intelligence, and yet he is being fooled by C.Y. Leung. Studies for caverns should have started a long time ago. We shouldn't be deceived by C.Y. Leung. This is something I support, although I don't often support the government's works. We are talking about a very prime piece of land, which is almost unparalleled in Hong Kong. Sam Cheng, the site at the Sam Cheng sewage treatment works is prime, and if the facility can be relocated to caverns, we can free up this very important plots of land for other uses. The government can tackle the stone mine at Lemma Island. The government should adopt a similar thinking to the plot of land at Lemma Island. It can be used for other use. It can be put into better uses. So in terms of land use planning, we must be objective. And after conducting so many studies, at the end of the day, if you are not thinking objectively, then everything would be in vain. And Paul Chan, people like Paul Chan, is trying to grab land aimlessly. So people power is in support of reasonable proposals from the government, such as these. Mr. Lo Wai Kwok. And at the FC, these two items for on the relocation of facilities to caverns, we are totally in support at the BPA. In Stanley, we have sewage treatment works which are operating smoothly, and the locals are in strong support. These facilities have been operating for years, so we don't have to worry about the operation. And for the vacated land, we can have another round of discussions later on when we have time. I believe that the government has to conduct public consultations. Mr. Gary Fan. My next question is on the Sai Kung Sewage Treatment Works, or SKSTW. The government raised two proposals. The first solution does not involve reclamation. The other solution involves reclamation. And in paper PWSC 4, the government did not mention feasibility studies for land reclamation. But the Sai Kung District Council has explained to the governments and during the district councils, this issue of land reclamation was discussed, but yet, unbelievably, we have no such discussion at LegCo. And these two projects, which would take place concurrently on the relocation of facilities to caverns and the relocation issue and the reclamation issue, and for PWSC for the projects 402DS, are there any have any consultations be conducted? Thank you very much for the question. This issue was covered in PWSC, and at that time, and the land reclamation involved is relatively small, and as such, we didn't have to go to FC for approval of funding, and it can be the item can be completed using the so-called Pt2 provisions. And these projects can be done separately or together, and we have some flexibility. And as such, we didn't have to report to the Legislative Council. Next, Mr. Fernando Chang. Mr. Gary Fan wasn't the only one to raise this issue at Sai Kung, and at Sha Tin we face a similar issue. And in the first round of consultation, the land reclamation project at Ma Liu Shui was proposed. And in the second round of consultation, Ma Liu Shui was still under consideration. And later on, the residents at Ma Shan have always been very concerned with this project. After relocating the sewage treatment works, land reclamation would be done, and the whole land lots will be used to build luxury homes. And I honestly don't agree with such proposal. And the preliminary thinking is that the feasibility studies would not affect our environment, but in the future, if we are to relocate the entire sewage treatment works to Kevin's, a lot of sludge would be generated, and a lot of excavation is involved, and how much land reclamation and land filling would be involved. It's still an unknown at that stage, and the preliminary studies for these three sewage treatment works amount to over $100 million. Can you make a promise that in the future these valuable land lots would not be used to build luxury homes? Even if you build luxury homes, they can't be afforded by Hong Kong people anyway. We have spent so much public money to vacate these land lots, and if these facilities, if these residential developments cannot be enjoyed by Hong Kong people, it's meaningless. Can you promise that these land lots will be used for recreational uses for the public? And you cannot work with the developers to make big money. This issue has been mentioned by another member before, and I had already given an answer. Well, basically, we would consider different comments in terms of land use, and even if they're used for private developments, it doesn't mean they will be used for building luxury homes. And as I said, later on we will perform more consultations, and perhaps the director can give more on the feasibility study. Chairman, on the issue of Kevin's, the facilities can be relocated to Kevin's because the sedimentary conditions are very, very good, and most of the excavated rocks can be used for used as construction materials. And these two Kevin projects must undergo statutory environmental assessments, environmental impact assessments. So please be assured. Mr. Ten Ka-piu. Thank you, Chairman. Well, if private developments or luxury homes are mentioned, then naturally we are very concerned. And the definition of luxury homes is actually very broad. So land supply is the most important issue. Hong Kong is facing a shortage of land. And in terms of land use, I hope you can listen to the views of the residents as well as the views of universities. As Hong Kong's economy further develops, and how this plot of land can be linked with CUHK and the science park. Apart from PRH and private developments, there might be other possibilities. In Shingmun River, we have a lot of water recreational activities. Well, let me make a declaration. In the past, I was a member of the rafting team. So hopefully, when you consider land use, you can think in a broader manner. And another issue is assuming that we can vacate the plots of land in Sha Tin with the relocation of the sewage treatment works, and assuming that we will develop residential properties. When can Hong Kong see the first developments, the first residential developments? Chairman, we are talking about the sewage treatment works relocation at Sham Cheng and Sai Kung. For Sha Tin, the earliest dates, the relocation will take at least 10 years or more. Mr. Gary Fan, the government did not answer my question. Why did you provide more information to the district council than the LegCo? You have made a mistake. Please admit your mistake very clearly. Excavating and relocating these facilities take money, and land reclamation also take money.
And in the future, if there is a public housing or private housing, then we have some concerns, because people in the community will say that we spend so much money, but the land is not used for public housing. That's the basis of our worries. You are going to spend $40 million for the feasibility studies. For the Sha Tin sewage treatment works, it's $630 million, not a small sum at all. So my question, you can finish it. The location is near a special site in Chiu-Hang and also the Mon Shan Country Park. This is a developed area, so there is a concern. You haven't set out the relevant conservation work in the paper. I'll ask the director to supplement. Please be precise. Although the cavern is near Chiu-Hang, but it's an underground space, so whatever on top will not be affected. So Chiu-Hang will not be affected. All right, understood. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, Chairman. Mr. Gary Fan, they give the information to the District Council, so they might as well go to the District Council to seek funding. You gave them so much information and so little to us. Well, why don't you go to the District Council, which is after all controlled by the DAB? Get the money from the District Council. We are here representing Hong Kong people. I have been fooled by Mr. Siwa Leung. The fault is mine. And still, you give us less information than the District Council. Let me repeat. My constituents in Sha Tin have said this. Don't use it for housing. You cannot promise us. If it's for housing, I asked them whether it should be public housing. And you still don't say yes. What should we do? Oh, we have dealt with the Sha Tin item. I understand that, but I have to express the wishes of my constituents. You can ask Miss Elizabeth Kwok. The Shek Mun residents are accusing you of land grabbing. And the Mount Shan is under their control. You want me to approve your funding? No, I'm not going to do it. I ask Mr. Yip Kok Kim to give you the money. I'll shut up. I'll let Mr. Yip Kok Kim give you the money. Mr. Gary Fan, whether it's Sam Jing, some Sha Tin, some Jiang or Sai Kung, they have changed the consultation method. Well, they would come up with a new land use, and then they will consult people about whether it's cost effectiveness or it's going to give us people benefit. But now it's different. We are going to get land, but you don't tell people the new land use. This is the crux of the matter. How can consultation be done on this basis? If we look at the plan, there will be engineering trucks going there for the excavation works, and Zhuhang, the special site in Zhuhang, will be affected. So have you contacted other departments, such as EPD, AFCD, and the Country Park Authority and other green groups? If not, well, are you going to involve all those departments and organizations? A simple answer would do. For the Sai Kevin work, the ingress and egress is away from, is not in Zhuhang. So the construction vehicles will not affect Zhuhang when they go in and come out from the site area. There will be a comprehensive EIA, and the impact for on the environment will be looked into. Well, it's not that you haven't touched on all these issues. You are just using vague terms. According to paper number 5, page 5, paragraph 16, it says there will be no long-term implications, long-term environmental impacts. So have you made an assessment? How come you have come to this assessment that there will be no long-term impacts? When we say long-term impacts, we mean that after the project is completed, there will be no long-term environmental impacts. But during the construction phase, some impact will be inevitable. But in the future EIA, such temporary impacts will also be studied. If there's no further, Mr. Gary Fang, I have a further question. According to the paper, the investigation works will not involve the removal of any trees or directly involve any trees. So are they going to be indirect impact on trees during the investigation works? During the investigation works, we'll try to avoid affecting any tree. Yes, if Mr. Leung Ko-hong, Chairman, they will try to avoid it. How can they avoid it? When we carry out the investigation works, we can choose the locations to work on. Within a particular location, we can choose a location where there's no tree, because we need to do boring for the investigation. It's not going to cover a big area. Mr. Gary Fang, I haven't finished my question. So you select locations with no tree. Would your investigation work be affected? If we look at the express rail link projects, they did not bore any holes near the golf practicing facility, and that's why they didn't discover that there were hard rocks underneath. This time is for excavating a cavern. What we need to know is the quality of rock in the vicinity. We don't need to find a particular precise location for the boring works. Our consultant engineer will select the locations for the boring works, and in this process he will try to avoid locations with trees. This is the end of the second session. We will take a break. This is for dinner break, and we'll return at 7:10 p.m. Meeting's adjourned for the moment.